People have been seeking answers for thousands of years.
If it's in the cards,
from looking at clouds or tea leaves or birds flying,
Daniel Guerrero can read it.
I just see tarot as just another one of those modalities.
For 20 years, he's looked to tarot cards to help people predict outcomes.
And there are really no limits as far as what you can ask the tarot cards.
This is the first time he's read the city of Austin.
Right now, Austin is experiencing a lot of actual growth.
I think it's going to change quite a bit.
Drew Cheverly has had a front row seat to Austin's growth, working at the Austin Chamber of Commerce.
We double every 20 years and have been doing so since 1880. So this city will double to roughly about 4.5 million people.
In 2040, Austin will be a lot more crowded, more like Houston than the Austin we know today.
So this is definitely, like, clearly, obviously a boom time for Austin.
The people will likely look different too.
There's also this deep-seated cultural displacement that's happening, this cultural erasure. We've had community members describe it to us as bullying, like this idea every day there's a developer with a letter on your doorstep basically telling you your time is up here.
There's some difficult times ahead.
The cards show the challenges.
The Seven of Cups just represents having the sense of being overwhelmed by the various options ahead.
Most families will live in the suburbs.
Huge growth in Asian households, huge growth in Hispanic households, modest growth in African American households.
Without increased ground transit, commute times could double. Tech, medical, and government will drive jobs. Single, professionals, and seniors will take over downtown.
We're seeing lots and lots of older households being attracted to Austin. Some people call it the grandparent connection.
The silver tsunami, not just the kind of people attracted here, but the buildings being designed.
And then this is it, the living room, dining room, kitchen, bedroom, and that's it.
Smaller footprints, higher density housing will be the norm. And prices, well, brace yourself for what's to come.
So in 2040, we can probably expect our pricing to fall in line with what's going on in cities like New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles.
Austin could be the 10th largest city in the United States by the year 2040. But one card stands out.
The Magician card is showing up as blocked. It looks like it might be losing touch with what people basically came here to experience. Just making sure that we keep the magic, keep Austin weird, and that's like showing up as one of the main concerns.
The changes are already taking shape. Plans are in the works for transportation, housing, jobs. Decisions about affordability, diversity, and future growth are what will determine whether the city is a place we want to call home.
Living in a boomtown creates a housing challenge. Part of that includes the destruction of older homes and construction of newer, more modern ones. The number of demolition permits issued by the city of Austin has grown nearly 13% a year since 2016, mostly for homes. The neighborhoods where it's happening the most are feeling it, and there is very little the city can do to stop it.
We bought it because of the view.
There's a growing price for these million-dollar views.
This is a really neat neighborhood. It's very eclectic. It's a great location.
Becky Motal has lived in Barton Hills for 35 years. The 78704, one of Austin's hottest housing zip codes.
You're close to the Greenbelt, close to the creek, and close to Central City, so close to a lot of stuff. Zilker Park, so it's great.
But the peace and serenity of what draws so many families here is being replaced by this. On nearly every street, old homes being demolished and new modern structures built.
You might call this a remodeling cove or a demolishing cove. So I don't think it's ended yet.
In the last 5 years, 3,485 homes have been demolished in Austin, nearly a third of them in the 78704 zip code. This map shows all the demolition permits that have been issued for properties across our city since 2016. A 2017 audit criticized the process after seeing a spike of demolition permits, saying the city needs better safety measures, mandatory tree reviews, and demolition inspections after new construction has begun. The city typically only reviews demolition permits for structures that are 40 years old or older to help preserve buildings of historical significance, which leads to change all around us.
When we moved in, the houses were going for, and we thought we were paying a lot, about $175,000. Now, you can't touch these lots for less than $1 million.
The price of progress is a lot greater than some families considered when they moved here decades ago. And yet, even Becky sees the value in the new replacing the old.
I can understand it, and in fact, in some respects, kind of encourage it. You know, some of these homes were, not well taken care of.
But as more and more lots go from single-family homes to holding multiple structures, there are worries that what we lose can never be replaced, something even the younger generation appreciates about Austin.
I hope the future of the neighborhood will just be what the neighborhood was originally, and you can't really turn back time, but I just hope we continue just to have families in these neighborhoods.
As old buildings come down, the city is losing some of its history. KVUE's Ashley Godot tells us what these changes mean to East Austin.
Nestled between the modern homes around East MLK,
oh, look up there, there goes one of the boxes,
is a piece of the old East Austin.
Well, I call it a little shotgun.
It's not the biggest house on the street, but to Betty Washington, the 4 walls she built with her husband Billy 50 years ago are perfect.
Well, it means everything to me. I love this little house.
The 86-year-old moved to Austin when she was just 3 years old, before the city plan of 1928 that created a Negro district, physically segregating the city, fully went into effect.
When I was a little girl, black people lived all the way on Rio Grande, and then they started moving us this way. All right, this is home. We got it, Build you some homes, find you some homes over here in East Austin. And this was our East Austin.
But over the last decade, our East Austin has started to change. The land consulting engineers once deemed as having very low value is now desirable.
Now it's Central East Austin.
Washington isn't opposed to change, but she's not a fan of the attention her home has gotten in the last 6 years. Unsolicited calls and letters from realtors and companies offering to buy her out, and one letter crossed a line.
On the top said, move out and move on.
She received that letter during a time when UT researchers found Austin was the only major city in the country where the black population was decreasing at a double-digit rate.
There is something both visceral and, in my opinion, disturbing when people have worked decades on decades to build a community, and in 5-10 years, you wouldn't be able to tell who lived there.
Virginia Cumberbatch is the Director of Equity and Community Advocacy at UT Center for Community Engagement.
I think the part that starts to rattle people is your arrival in this community should not be at the detriment of my survival in this community.
Over to East Austin.
Her office is working to preserve the culture of East Austin with the Community Housing Hub, educating people on tools and programs to help them stay in their homes and capturing their stories and feelings.
It's not just some people who have the money to buy property moving into an area because they choose to. That is not what gentrification really is. It is the death of a history of a neighborhood.
Currently, Austin's black population is increasing.
It's important because it's a part of the ongoing work and legacy of our city to make sure that everyone who's contributed to this community, everyone who's contributed to this city, they get to be both visible and also documented in terms of the narrative of who we are as the city of Austin.
For Washington, that narrative partly lies in this home, constructed to establish her family's legacy and build generational wealth.
And I won't be here forever, but it was going to be for my children. It would be at one of their houses. Somebody's house in the family.
That intention is the reason Washington called the man who sent her this letter.
He said, how much would you want for your property? And I told him, you don't have enough money to pay for my property, not right now.
Because no amount is worth home. Ashley Goodo, KVUE News.
As Austin's population grows, our demographics are changing. What the people of Central Texas could look like in the year 2040. By the year 2040, nearly 4 million people are expected to call the Austin Metro home. So what will the people of tomorrow's ATX look like? KVUE's Ashley Godot shows us.
From the Waterloo settlement of 1835 to the bustling Austin of 2019, one fact rings true about the Texas capital. Every 20 years, the Metro's population doubles.
I've long said that, you know, people move to Austin from all over the place to become who they want to become.
Ryan Robinson is Austin's city demographer, tasked with studying the numbers of the past and predicting the future. So what's in store for Austin in the next 20 years? Surprisingly, the growth rate will slow down just a bit.
We actually think we're going to fall off of that 20-year doubling rate, but not by much, right? So instead of doubling every 20 years, you might double every 25 or 28.
So by 2040, the population of the Austin Metro will be a couple 100,000 people shy of 4 million. And the key word there is Metro. Austin's is made up of 5 counties: Travis, Williamson, Hayes, Bastrop, and Caldwell.
By 2040, it won't just be downtown in the Domain, but you'll have 8 or 9 big, vibrant sort of satellite centers around the region.
Instead of just ATX, Robinson thinks it will be ATX SA.
But by 2040, we'll be kind of one big, indistinguishable urban mass.
And so what about the people of 2040? What will the people living in this urban mass look like? If we break it down by race and ethnicity, Robinson predicts the Metro will be more diverse. Currently, it's about 50% white, 34% Hispanic, 7% black, 7% Asian, and 2% multiracial. By 2040, it's expected to be 35% white, 30% Hispanic, 15% black, 15% Asian, and 5% multiracial. But that's not the case for the Austin city limits and the 15 zip codes that make up the city's urban core.
That's becoming less diverse, and that's because it's become so much more expensive. Even though the city is very interested in crafting new housing policy and increasing our housing capacity and bringing people back in, we are competing with land value. Land inside the city of Austin is going to be more expensive than it is in Kyle or Buda or East Round Rock or Leander.
The people living in the more expensive Austin of 2040 will be older compared to today's younger population.
Median age is about 32 and a half. And boy, is that going to change.
Younger baby boomers and older Gen Xers are moving to Austin. In fact, a recent study shows that 1/3 of downtown households are occupied by boomers and Xers.
By 2040, I think that we could have 20% of our population older than 65.
A trend called the silver tsunami.
I think that what it means to retire is changing. I don't think that people will be able to, A, afford or even be interested in fully retiring. They're going to want to sort of stay in the game. And if that's true, then places like Austin will become increasingly attractive for retirees.
And a bit less attractive for families. More families are choosing to trade in the city limits for the suburbs. There are entire neighborhoods in Austin with few to no kids, and experts predict that trend will continue. But there is a factor that could change that.
Millennials. Millennials have shown in study after study to greatly prefer an urban location. Will they still do that when they begin to have children? I think you'll see some of that, but I also think some millennials will go to the suburbs as well.
The next 20 years will undoubtedly bring change to Austin, but Robinson believes the thing that's made the capital city special for the 60 years he's been here is what will keep it special in 2040 and beyond: the people.
It's a place where people feel free to be creative, they feel free to follow their own religion, to love who they want to love. And that might sound kind of corny, but I really think Austin is that place.
The place so many are proud to call home. Ashley Goodo, KVUE News.
Central Texas population boom is making traffic worse for everyone. What leaders are doing to try to get a handle on the problem. In 2040, the population of the Austin Metro is expected to double, but we're not getting double the number of roads. Ashley Godot looks at how people will get around in the future.
Countless things draw people to Austin. The thriving job market, renowned live music scene, keep it weird culture. But not everyone wanted the capital city to be the boomtown it is today.
There was a mindset here at one time that if we didn't make a whole bunch of improvements to the infrastructure, that a lot of folks would not come here, or if they did, they wouldn't stay. And that proved to be wrong.
Ashby Johnson is the executive director of the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. CAMPO is required by the federal government to produce transportation plans for the region and distribute state and federal money for road projects.
Some of the information that was provided, say in the 80s, early 90s, was ignored. And so a lot of infrastructure was not built that should have been built, that was recommended.
Fast forward to 2019, and it doesn't matter if it's morning, noon, or night, weekday or weekend. If you're on a highway in Austin, chances are you're going to sit in traffic.
We're trying to pack 50 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound sack.
20 years from now, there will be even more potatoes. The population in the Austin region, made up of Travis, Williamson, Bastrop, Hayes, and Caldwell counties, will nearly double to almost 4 million people.
When we do something in Oak Hill, or we improve I-35 or Loop 360, we want to make sure that it's not only improving the roadway when it's completed, but 20 years down the road.
Brad Willis is a spokesman for the Texas Department of Transportation. In the Austin district, there are more than 760 projects planned. Of course, the big one is I-35. It's the 10th most congested highway in the nation, the second most congested in Texas. TxDOT is planning to complete more than 40 projects along I-35 in Austin and add lanes to the highway itself.
We're planning to add 1 to 2 managed lanes from SH-45 north to SH-45 southeast.
But the construction alone won't be enough to ease your commute.
Based on the 2040 plan that we have in place, we expect to see, if everything was built out, and we know that probably will not happen, we would see about a 28% increase in roads, but a 121% increase in population. The plain way to explain that is you're going to see much worse congestion on a whole lot more roads in the region over much longer periods of time.
So to combat congestion, transportation leaders say they have to get people off the highways.
If you hate your commute this morning, I'm sorry to break it to you, but that might be the best commute you ever have.
Randy Clark joined the Cab Metro team 18 months ago as president and CEO. He's all about taking bold, calculated risks to get more people to use mass transit.
This isn't your grandfather's bus company anymore.
From pickup zones to redesigning the bus network and testing electric vehicles, Cab Metro is trying new things, and they seem to be working. Ridership has increased every month for 12 straight months. The next bold plan is Project Connect, creating an expanded transit system that connects the entire region. Project Connect is still in the planning phases, so there isn't a final price tag, and leaders haven't decided if the transit system will be bus or rail.
The key is not the type of wheel per se, it is the capacity of those vehicles and having their own dedicated right-of-way.
Adding lanes designated solely for buses is part of a bigger plan. For the past 2 years, Campo staff have been building the Regional Arterials Plan, looking at how cities in the Austin region can get people off the highways by increasing capacity on the major roadways through the city. And that plan could have a huge impact on your commute.
We were able to realize the recommendations in that draft plan. What we would see is a doubling in our population by 2045, but our congestion would be no worse than it is today. And that's a considerable achievement if we can pull it off.
Pulling it off largely depends on the cities and whether today's leaders will listen to the recommendations, unlike what was done in the past, to make sure that people in this boomtown can get around and enjoy the things that made them decide to call Austin home. Ashley Godot, KVUE News.
Next, how Austin's airport is going to change as it gets busier and busier. Austin Bergstrom International Airport is growing just like the rest of Austin, and it's trying to keep pace with all the travelers. So what will the airport be like in 20 years from now? Bryce Newberry takes a look.
When the Austin airport opened in 1999, it was designed for 11 million passengers. But by 2040, it could handle 40 million flyers per year. When Julie Stone Frederick arrives at Austin Bergstrom,
I'm all about speed and getting to places as quickly as I need to, so I like to be able to get to the airport and just get on my way.
her carry-on and boarding pass are all she needs for a quick weekend getaway. This travel agent and frequent flyer is no stranger to the airport.
When I first moved to Austin, it was still the old Mueller Airport.
In 1997, Austin Bergstrom International Airport replaced the Robert Miller Municipal Airport in East Austin. It's been growing ever since, last year serving nearly 16 million passengers.
Austin is continuing to grow by leaps and bounds every day, and so I think the airport needs to grow with it.
By 2040, the airport will be much larger, similar to the size of Minneapolis-St. Paul's. Plans include expanding what you know as the Barbara Jordan Terminal to include a new ticketing, security, and baggage area. It will move the current drop-off curb farther north. Over on the other side of the airport, the South Terminal will no longer serve passengers. The city recently offered to buy it back from High Star Capital for $10 million, but they still don't know what exactly they'll do with it. Instead, a new concourse and 32 new gates will be added by 2032. Planners are still trying to decide how to connect the two concourses.
It includes lots of different changes in the airport.
Lynn Estabrook is the airport's planning and development manager.
If we want those new flights, we've got to build more gates and more ticket counters and allow for more baggage screening so that your bags can get to your plane.
For Julie and her clients, those new flights are a top priority.
If we don't continue to get international carriers or new carriers or additional nonstop flights, sometimes people just find it easier to either drive to Dallas or Houston to take those nonstop flights out of those cities instead.
In the last year, airlines have announced new nonstop flights to Paris, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Calgary. Jacqueline Yaft is the airport's new executive director.
An airport is a huge economic engine. International flights is one of those major drivers for an economic engine, and it puts in a lot of money into the airport and the city.
One thing that planners don't want to get lost among all the changes is the feel of the airport.
I think we can do it in a way where it's still not too big that people get lost in the airport and not be able to see the city of Austin and the flavor of Austin.
For now, Julie will keep booking flights to her next destination through the airport she's grown to love.
It's a beautiful airport, the food is great, it just has a relaxed vibe, and I love when I come home getting off the plane and hearing live music.
KVUE is dedicated to tracking the impact of growth and development in all of our communities. You can see those stories on our broadcasts or whenever you want on KVUE.com/Boomtown2040. Thanks for watching.